have a mansion. In the post-apocalyptic world by Morning Star LL. Chapter 51, Aisha's Determination. The battle was spreading to Baghdad, Iraq's capital. The sound of explosions made for a sleepless night as it cast a gloom of war on the once prosperous city. Of course, that was only for the natural citizens of Baghdad. As for the foreigners like Jiang Chen and Robert, they drank and caroused, untouched by the events around them. Amidst the bar's flashing lights, heavy metal rap pierced through everyone's eardrums. A Lebanon beauty right on stage with her snake-like waist and dark blonde hair swinging. The men sitting by the dance floor howled and screamed as one as they threw Franklins in exchange for more exotic moves. Behind the bar, a black bartender placed mixed cocktails in front of Robert and Jiang Chen. The establishment was rumored to belong to a British man as most of the customers were either foreign soldiers or laborers and reporters. The people here didn't have to bear the burdens of this war, even if the battlefront was at the doorstep. They knew their country's army would come and cover their departure. It truly made people envious, to have your home country always be your staunchest ally and protection no matter where you were. Safe trip. Robert raised his cup. Safe trip. Jiang Chen toasted him and threw it back. The cocktail tasted rather odd. Other than the alcohol, there seemed to be something else mixed with it. I heard they banned alcohol. Jiang Chen swirled the crystal glass as he enjoyed the beauties dancing on the floor. That's for religious people. The owner here has an influential background which grants him a special license to sell. Also, the majority of the people here are active UA soldiers or Blackwater International mercenaries. Even if the occasional drunk were to cause problems, they'd be kicked out immediately. This place doesn't even need bouncers. Robert smiled with narrowed eyes as he took a sip. For these guys that live on a knife's edge, only this sort of stimulation can give them the peace of mind again to feel alive. Speaking of the people who could die any second, Robert referred to not only the soldiers who were in danger of stepping on landmines, but also to himself as a firearms merchant. Jiang Chen's hand holding the glass briefly trembled as he thought deeply about the chaotic apocalypse and the people who suffered there. He did not feel any pity. It was only that he realized he was one of those who could lose his life at any moment. I'll be more careful in the future. He shook his head as he took another gulp. Handsome, do you want a shot? Two Middle Eastern beauties in tank tops stopped in front of Jiang Chen and Robert and winked seductively. Which one do you want? Robert whistled at the two beauties as he glanced slyly at Jiang Chen. This is on me. Neither, I have a headache. I'll go sleep since I have to catch a flight tomorrow. Jiang Chen didn't feel tempted in the slightest as he sighed and tossed the cup onto the counter. Don't act like a middle-aged man, buddy. Haha, then I'll take both. Robert laughed, gathering both of the beauties into his arms and caressing them in his drunkenness. Jiang Chen rubbed his slightly sore temple and stood up to leave. He left the bar with its heavy metal screams and desire-filled cheers as he drowsily searched for the hotel door in his alcohol-driven stupor. He shoved the door open and dived into the soft bed, snoring almost immediately with a pungent, alcohol smell wafting from him. Aisha, who was curled up on the side, smelled the liquor and slightly raised her eyebrows before she let out a sigh. He was a non-believer after all. Once they reached the hotel, Jiang Chen brought her here. Not only did she take a shower, but he also brought her a hot lunch to enjoy. He also requested the hotel attendant to purchase new clothes for her from a store nearby. Although it was not in their job descriptions, a hefty tip took care of the problem. After settling her in, Jiang Chen left the hotel. And then he didn't come back until almost midnight. Aisha didn't sleep until he came home, acting out her role as wife as she courteously waited for her man to come home. This was what her mother had taught her, but unfortunately, she would never be able to see her daughter get married. Marriage was an uncertainty as Aisha heard that many countries believed in monogamy. For her who was picked up, she didn't envy the ritual, only, she was happy that Jiang Chen did not leave her behind. Different from before, she was clean and dressed in new clothes. The exotic beauty was just under the surface, ready to bloom at any moment. Yet even now, it was hidden under an emotionless expression. The rigid and thin body was noticeably malnourished, but the existing curves were accentuated by the slightly thin fabric of the clothes. After a bit of care, Aisha would become a beauty like her mother. There were many beauties from her country. But in this forsaken piece of desert, beauty was a sin. Aisha's eyes were different from Xiaoxiu's pride-filled gaze. They were instead apathetic, perhaps towards life itself? Jiang Chen couldn't know for sure with just an intuition. The day she saw her parents brutally murdered, her tears, her fears, and her sorrows were drained from her body along with her hatred. She had seen far too many tragedies that she even questioned her feelings for her own life. If faced with the decision between death and a greater pain, she was prepared to calmly choose to end her own life. It was a logic taught to her by war, virulent and widespread among the people. Despite all that happened, however, this sympathetic Eastern man accepted her. Aisha ignored the awful smell of alcohol as she shifted Jiang Chen's body. She then took a hot towel and placed it on his forehead. This place is like heaven. Pristine bedsheets, beautiful decorations, she was never so happy before, and she treasured this contentment dearly. Once she wiped Jiang Chen's face, a hint of softness showed in her apathetic eyes. Her finger lightly touched Jiang Chen's chest as she hesitated before she took a deep breath and made up her mind to unzip Jiang Chen's clothes. She placed the sweat-drenched clothes to the side and blushed at the muscular body. Embarrassed, she still reached out with her trembling hands as she gently toweled Jiang Chen's body. Jiang Chen snorted and turned around, scaring Aisha. Only when she saw that Jiang Chen was still asleep did her rapidly pumping heart calm down. She knew she didn't do anything wrong, but she was still afraid to have him wake up. Gathering her nerves once more, she gently bit her lips. When his breath became regular again, Aisha finally pulled up the courage once more to wipe the sweat from his back. Although she made up her mind to continue, she was still not completely prepared, which explained her unabated apprehension. Sun Jiao, Yao Yao, Jiang Chen murmured in his sleep as he turned around and grabbed Aisha's hand. Aisha jumped and then froze in place. Sun Jiao, Yao Yao. Are these the names of the mistresses? Not knowing Han, her sixth sense as a woman proved to be a scary and sensitive weapon. When she heard the names, Aisha felt relieved, but at the same time, an ambiguous emotion crept in. Jealousy? Not quite. Maybe it was just unease. She gazed at Jiang Chen's face with her head close to him. Just as she realized her embarrassing act, Jiang Chen shifted until he was on top of her. What to do? Will I get eaten right away? Her face suddenly blushed a dark red. The once apathetic eyes became flustered and confused. She was unable to register that she was leaning into him as her brain melted into a mess. But, this is not too bad since it was inevitable. Aisha tried to convince herself as she bit her lip and obediently wrapped her arms around his neck. Rather than ending up a devil sex slave without any dignity or human rights, this ending is much better. At least this way, my purity will only be for one person, and I will serve only one man. Aisha persuaded herself into calming her racing heart. She urged away her embarrassment and brought her lips closer to Jiang Chen's alcohol-filled breath. This was making him commit a crime. Or adding oil to the fire. Half drowsy, Jiang Chen felt like he was in heaven. A beautiful servant placed fresh grapes by his mouth, prompting him to eat it without any hesitation. Not only were there delicious grapes, there were also sweet wine, fresh juice, and passionate joy. Wait, why was there passionate joy? Maybe it was because of the sweat. Who cared, it was euphoric after all. Chapter 52, Back Home. The next morning, Jiang Chen held his head as he woke up with a minor headache. Did I get drunk last night? About to sit up, he rubbed his eyes and suddenly froze. The girl beside him slept quietly, her hair scattered across her face and her breathing gentle but tired. And on the bedsheet was a distinct red spot. Fu asterisco kappa. What did I do? He almost lost strength and fell off the bed. You're awake? Aisha was roused from her dream from his sudden movements. She followed the direction of Jiang Chen's shocked look and gently bit her lips, burying her head into the sheets. Although she had been mentally prepared, when the moment came, Aisha still felt scared. The pain that ripped her apart almost made her cry, although the sensation that soon followed helped her enter a pleasurable state, nearly enough to make her forget the soreness. Although it hurt, she surprisingly didn't mind losing her first time like this. Jiang Chen scratched his head as he forced a smile. Sorry. No need to be sorry. I am your wife. It's okay even if I don't get a real name to myself. I understand the tradition of your hometown, Aisha whispered with her head still lowered and her shoulders covered by the blankets. Where Aisha came from, her age was acceptable for marriage, but to Jiang Chen, how could he explain that rather than tradition, it was better described as problematic? He shook himself out of his momentary frozen state before he sighed and said apologetically, last night, I drank too much. It must hurt a lot, right? His memory from last night was already fading, making him assume that he had forced her when the reality was different. It's too big. The words didn't have time to process before she immediately blushed at the inappropriate nature. Jiang Chen almost choked on his own spit. Aisha immediately moved over to pat his back, except she lost hold of her wrapped sheet that soon slipped down. The nicely shaped breasts and waist were fully exposed to him. Aisha shrieked and reached out with her trembling hands to cover herself again. They already crossed the line, but she still felt embarrassed. Jiang Chen scratched his head, but in the end, only sighed. Study some Han. Aisha buried her head once more, afraid to look him in the eyes. Jiang Chen forced a smile when he saw the redness on the sheet again and awkwardly patted his still drowsy head. He never considered himself a noble guy, but he had his own boundaries. Taking a young girl's first time still made him feel quite guilty. Even if alcohol was involved, it was not an excuse to escape responsibility. But Aisha's voluntary demure perspective made Jiang Chen feel a bit better. He was touched by her understanding and made up his mind to treat this girl nicely. At the very least, he would let her live a life 100 times more comfortable than the one she had here. He awkwardly rejected Aisha's proposal to dress him as it would corrupt him to the bone and threw his clothes on before he hastily escaped from the room. Watching Jiang Chen leave, a smile appeared on Aisha's face. In it was contained a slight affection. She gathered her hands in front of her chest with a lowered head and prayed sincerely to her God. Meeting you is the best thing to happen in my life. At noon, Jiang Chen brought Aisha along with him on the flight to Dubai. Because Baghdad had no direct flight to Hua, their best option was to have a layover at Dubai first before heading to Hua. Before that, there was an incident with Aisha's identity. Because of the constant chaos in Syria, Aisha couldn't bring any forms of identification with her when she escaped the country. Impractical to contact her home country, she was currently without an identity, so Jiang Chen thought to use money to get her an ID of some sort. But when he arrived at the council, it was empty. Only when he asked the Iraqi soldier patrolling outside did he finally learn that all of the consulate workers had left on the last flight to Hua to avoid the conflict. The soldier was experienced in handling such situations as he directed Jiang Chen to the UN office, but Jiang Chen impatiently called Robert, who had planned on staying for a few more days. Hearing about Jiang Chen's trouble, Robert happily offered his help and contacted someone in the UAE embassy to acquire a green card and passport for Aisha at the cost of $20,000. Robert, however, rejected Jiang Chen's offer to pay. Compared to the deal we're about to make, this is nothing, right? Robert laughed on the other end of the phone. Jiang Chen couldn't disagree with that either. With an ID, Aisha could finally book tickets, and her visa to enter Han would be resolved in the Dubai embassy. For a whole day, Jiang Chen stayed with Aisha in Dubai. Although he was envious of the renowned city of wealth, it was not the right time for a tour. He had many loose ends to tie up, such as converting the millions of gold he had in his possession, buying a mansion, and finding a new car to own since he could travel at any time. Finally, after a 9-hour flight, the two landed in Beijing. It was already 8 at night when they touched down, but the city's nightlife had only just begun. The lights from the street lamps and cars lit up the night, shocking Aisha, who had never seen such an endless stream of cars and people crowding the paths. Jiang Chen smiled knowingly, sensing Aisha's shock and remembering his own similar expression when he first left his hometown. At the time, the magnificence of Wanghai City's night sky had stunned him into silence. People would only understand once they lived here. Despite the bustling streets, none of it touched your life in any way. Perhaps this was the apathy of the modern world. Of course, since he had money now, such concerns were no longer his to think about either. As he called a taxi to a nearby hotel, he tapped her shoulder. The flight to Wanghai City would depart the next morning, and they had to find somewhere to stay for the night. After showering, Jiang Chen got on the bed right away, ready to sleep, but he was soon overwhelmed by awkwardness from what came afterward. It was a king-size bed. Aisha, who had just finished showering after him, approached the bed covered in a towel. Her eyes shyly looked down as she gently bit her lips before moving closer to the bed. Blankly staring, Jiang Chen was unaware of his loud gulp. The exotic foreign beauty with her budding, tender curves. They didn't say a word. Aisha slipped into the sheets, and everything seemed to make sense. The second time was always easier than the first, her face not showing the slightest discomfort. Despite his remaining guilt, her expression made Jiang Chen somewhat relieved. I didn't force her. And it's not the first time either. Since I already said I'd take care of her, then what's wrong with the second time? Very naturally, he placed his hands on her shoulder, causing Aisha to shyly lower her head and follow his direction. After returning to Wanghai City, Jiang Chen immediately started to work. Since he currently had no permanent residence, he booked the hotel he stayed at last time and settled Aisha in there. Once he finalized the mansion, she could move there. And although he improved his English skills speaking with her every day, he still arranged for her Han studies. Once he arranged everything, Jiang Chen immediately contacted Zhang Xinfei, Robert's agent in Wanghai City. According to Robert, he was an assistant for Mr. Chen who specialized in cargo shipments in Hong Kong. With Mr. Chen's extensive influence in Hong Kong, he and Robert had some past dealings in Los Santos. Jiang Chen didn't bother asking for the specifics. Zhang Xinfei was perfectly courteous upon meeting Jiang Chen. Next to him stood a bodyguard that Jiang Chen recognized, the polar bear from the Serbian region, Nick. Nice to see you again, buddy, Jiang Chen said sincerely with a light jab at his chest. Despite the fact that Nick didn't speak much, they still fought a difficult battle together, developing a close bond between the two of them. Nick also punched back as he took off his shades. I'm responsible for this guy's safety for now. Although he was the bodyguard, Jiang Chen knew his true purpose was to prevent this man from running away after realizing the value of the goods. The gold would likely be exported by the cargoes under Mr. Chen's name, and once it reached international waters, Robert would then offload the cargo onto his own ship before sending it to South Africa. Everything is here. Follow me. Jiang Chen waved his hand and led the way to the storage room where the food had previously been kept. Nick briefly hesitated. He knew they would be shipping gold, even bringing in inspection personnel, but never would he have thought that Jiang Chen would have stored gold worth billions in a warehouse without any surveillance. However, Jiang Chen didn't store the gold here, only moving it just before their arrival. We have an old saying in Han, the darkest place is under the lamp. If I hired security, this place would look suspicious. Jiang Chen made something up as he uncovered the gold. It's here, and you can come and verify. I hope you prepared the boxes. Nick gulped as he nodded dumbfoundedly. The inspector determined that all of the gold was in fact 24-carat quality and could be sold without further processing. The cumulative weight came to be 11 tons and 240 kilograms. When priced based on the weekly average of UA gold, and with a 9% processing fee, Jiang Chen received via wire the price of $510 million US. After receiving the Swiss bank's confirmation, Jiang Chen nodded. Nick then ordered his subordinates to pack the box and store it in the truck. The Zhang Xinfei guy chose to stand outside as he knew the role he had in this transaction. The less he knew, the better it was. He already received a hefty sum from the business, but as for what exactly was inside, it was not his part to know. Chapter 53, 500 million USD. See you later. Jiang Chen extended his right hand. Nick cracked a smile as he took his hand and shook it hard. Then in broken Han, he said, see you. As the black vehicles departed, Jiang Chen took a deep breath. 500 million US. Converted into RMB, that was 3.1 billion renminbi. Jiang Chen ecstatically gasped as the idea took root. I'm rich. 3.1 billion renminbi. It was a number he never could have fathomed in the past. If he put the money into a savings account, the interest would be at least a couple million a year. He took another breath in an attempt to calm down. The interest alone would be more than enough to sustain a luxurious lifestyle. After he let this idea sink in, he slowly inhaled one last time, enough to finally settle his rampant thoughts. If his only wish was to be a wealthy man, then this 3.1 billion was enough to last him a lifetime. But to create an empire that spanned across two worlds. At this, his excitement gradually cooled down, replaced by the fire of ambition in his eyes. Desire had the power to make people crazy, but it also made some people stronger. Wealth? That was not enough. I can gain more. Not enough. 3.1 billion is a fraction of what Future Technology Corporation is going to make in market capitalization. He laughed loudly, disregarding the weird looks thrown his way. Not only a wealthy man, I will be the richest man. 3.1 billion would be an astronomical number in anyone's pocket, but that's for ordinary people. Am I ordinary? Since I already have enough for a mansion, why don't I purchase a golf course? What? I don't know how to play golf? So what if I don't know how to play? I can still show it off. And even if it were to draw attention to himself, once the full sensory, virtual reality computer and other devices were introduced to the market, he would be noticed regardless. It wasn't as though he did anything illegal either, so he wasn't afraid of the authorities. The government was not foolish enough to believe time travelers actually existed. Even if the authority were to develop an interest in him, they would treat a corporation with such advanced technology like a precious jewel. In no way would they be foolish enough to kill the egg-laying chicken. To implement technology helpful to the military, the actual procedure would take more than 10 years, which was impractical. With innovation also came the risk of prompting an arms race again, risking a technology leak to espionage activities. But a top technology giant was different, bringing in billions of tax revenue for the country. It would fundamentally change the country's status in the world. Even if the authority were to forcefully buy the company and take over, he was not afraid. With the interdimensional bracelet, no one could catch him. While he wouldn't be able to do anything against them, he could always start anew somewhere else. Of course, he sincerely hoped to never see this day come. Maybe once he grew to become an immovable force, the authority wouldn't be able to lay a finger on him. Anything was possible. With a cocky expression, he stopped a taxi and headed to Xia Shiyu's apartment. You're finally back. Xia Shiyu squeezed the words out after letting Jiang Chen into the room. I encountered some problems, Jiang Chen said as he scratched his head. Xia Shiyu sighed at his careless expression. She hadn't been able to sleep well these past few nights, but now that Jiang Chen was safe, her heart was finally able to settle down. As for why she was worried, she didn't bother to think it through. If you have something for me, just give me a call. You don't have to visit every time, Xia Shiyu said casually. Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows with a grin on his face. Why? You have a boyfriend now? Xia Shiyu coldly glared at his humor-filled eyes. No, but you always find me during inappropriate times. Even if it's work-related, it's still not right. It was already 8 o'clock, allowing a man into her home felt slightly weird. Despite her poker face, this girl took other people's opinions seriously. If not, she wouldn't have fired Jiang Chen over a joke. There were probably already rumors circulating around with the neighbors. Jiang Chen easily saw through her intentions. Although he understood, he still wanted to tease this stubborn girl. No worries, overtime until tomorrow morning, Jiang Chen said while laughing without thinking through the implications of his words. Xia Shiyu's face, however, turned bright red, so threatening that it seemed she would kick him out right there. Did I say something wrong? Jiang Chen asked as he scratched his head once more. Seems like I teased her too much. Towards this sensitive girl, Jiang Chen could never resist teasing her, but if she actually got angry enough to stop working for him, he would never be able to clean up the mess. Xia Shiyu's chest heaved violently as she bit her lips before she finally calmed down. Extra time until tomorrow morning? You plan to spend the night here? What extra night? Being an assistant was a sensitive profession. Although Xia Shiyu was the CEO by name, she always felt that her work was more of an assistance. But Jiang Chen didn't seem to realize the meaning behind his words, and with how easily she became embarrassed, she would never say it out loud. Xia Shiyu sighed again at Jiang Chen's grin. She grabbed the document she had worked on for an hour before turning off the TV. Company growth. I've already submitted the required documentation for the mobile game to the authorities for approval. It didn't have any sensitive information, and will most likely receive the results shortly. Even if we release the game now, the loose regulations currently in place would allow it without many repercussions. In fact, this would solve the pressure on our cash flow, and many companies are already doing this. Xia Shiyu propped her black-framed glasses and logically explained the progress to date. Excellent, I'm impressed by your ability. As for the early release plan, there's no need to rush it. We won't allow other people the opportunity to ridicule us, so follow the procedure as planned. Jiang Chen nodded with a smile. On the other hand, the company building renovation is almost complete. Including the furniture and 1 year of rent, the total cost is 70,000 RMB. I've already submitted the cost to the accountant, and here's a breakdown for you to look through. Not bad. Pleased, Jiang Chen nodded and flipped through the sheets. Despite receiving recognition for her work, she felt more tired for some reason. She huffed before continuing, based on my research, the minimum number of employees required to operate is 14. This is taking into account the fact that we don't require game developers. A manager would cost 6,000 a month starting salary, server maintenance, legal, customer service. Wait, you can just give the spreadsheet for me to look over. Give me the key takeaway, Jiang Chen said. The estimated salary cost would be 68,000 a month. The necessary equipment would cost around 100,000. If we don't develop ways to generate revenue, she took a deep breath and said slowly, the company is facing risk of bankruptcy. No matter how stellar her management, she could not make money out of thin air, particularly for a mobile game that required time to gather the initial investment. Without a proper marketing and operations team to build a large customer base, even with methods such as in-game purchasing, everything was futile without people playing. Bankruptcy? Jiang Chen started to laugh. What are you laughing at? This is your company. Xia Shiyu gave him a dirty look. Unfortunately, it had no effect on Jiang Chen. Ahem, equity infusion. Jiang Chen didn't tease her further and said in a voice full of arrogance. This is the only way the company can survive through this initial rough period. Since we don't have the necessary assets, it would be difficult for any bank or venture capital to loan money to us. How much is the president willing to give? Xia Shiyu felt relieved. Even if it was Jiang Chen's company, she still depended on this job since it all began with her owing him money. The fact that Jiang Chen didn't outright demand it didn't mean she would not pay him back, this was her own stubbornness. Is 10 million enough? Jiang Chen asked casually. Swoosh, the files dropped onto the ground as Xia Shiyu stared at Jiang Chen stunned. What? Not enough? He frowned. What about 100 million? Are you making fun of me? Xia Shiyu gritted her teeth and glared at him. There was no way she believed that Jiang Chen was that wealthy. What kind of business would make this amount of money in just half a year? The only explanation was that Jiang Chen was joking with her. I'm not kidding. Jiang Chen laughed. You can come with me to the bureau to finish the necessary procedures tomorrow. Xia Shiyu fell silent. After a long pause, she finally said, if you're so rich, why would you open a company? Jiang Chen thought for a second before rolling his eyes. Who set the rule that you can't open a business if you're rich? She was clearly not happy with this answer. After another long silence, Jiang Chen didn't expect Xia Shiyu to blurt out, "Do you want to pursue me?" Chapter 54, Eagles Crash Part 2. Damn asterisk it. He smashed a hanging piece of steel as the orange letters on the dangling screen made Chunan even more annoyed. The corrupted electronic equipment sparked as the circuit was either shorted or destroyed. The shaking helicopter body made him hold his breath. Once the helicopter body stabilized, he gritted his teeth as he pushed the metal frame on his body with all his might. He glanced at the assistant pilot beside him. That sucker's condition was even worse as the bent steel frame directly penetrated through his ribcage, and his blood splashed everywhere. He looked at the metal frame that had stabbed through his arm and took in a gasp of air. Nevertheless, he felt lucky to be alive. That distance was 1,200 meters from the air. Apart from his operating skills, it was pure luck to survive from falling that high up. Chunan already used his best effort. When the machine lost its power, he immediately opened the mechanical revolving air turbine on the side of the helicopter. That was important because if he didn't manage to open in the initial stage, then the high-speed airflow may have destroyed it. Good thing that was still functional. He connected to the backup circuit board, but the situation was looking grim. His assistant tried to establish a connection with the headquarters. However, he received no response. He changed into manual operation as he used all his energy to stabilize the helicopter's body. The automatic stabilization system was destroyed, therefore if they started to roll in the air or the back wing gets damaged, even God could not save them. The backup mechanical turbine began to spin rapidly due to the airflow as the high-speed force generated held onto the helicopter like a parachute. Under the force of gravity, the head of the helicopter began to tip forward. Once the body turned at a particular angle, Chunan immediately pulled the plane up and maximized the upward force of the helicopter. The head of the helicopter instantly lifted up as the fallen force was broken by the sudden upward force from the mechanical turbine. It was about to land on top of the roof that they crashed into. Then they crashed into the top floor. The control was fine, but it was hard to select a landing spot in the city's terrain. Then warm blood splashed all over Chunan's face as he witnessed with his own eyes his assistant being penetrated by the metal frames. This doesn't make sense. The sudden electromagnetic pulse. It was not a simple EMP. The helicopter, 51 was EMP protective equipment that was the peak of the industry, but the helicopter was paralyzed without being hit directly. What was that thing? Chunan resisted the pain as he took out a dagger and slashed open the locked seatbelt. He carefully glanced at the view outside as he awkwardly untangled his legs from the deformed control panel and slowly crawled outside. What did this helicopter look like now? A small portion of the helicopter smashed through the walls of the 12 stories high building as it got pinned down by the protruding metal frames. The ends of the helicopter hung on the edge. The building's quality was superb to be able to withstand the force of impact after a nuclear war. The metal frames cleared exceeded construction standard. The smallest tremble of the helicopter body made his heart pump at full capacity. The friction noise made him even more nervous. The bulletproof glass in front of the helicopter was completely shattered, which eased his escape. When he was about to climb out, he hesitated and turned back to snatch the pendant on his comrade's neck as well as the ammo clip. After struggling, Chunan finally landed onto the hard cold concrete floor. He looked back at the deformed helicopter body as he quietly examined the pendant inside his palm. The poorly made pendant was covered by a thick layer of blood. Carlo Bielman. He flipped to the back as a sentence was engraved there. If possible, I want to hang this in the Arlington National Cemetery. The assistant pilot was a UA Spanish descendant. He was previously a pilot in NATO. However, the concept of a country didn't exist anymore as plenty of foreigners live in looting town with most being NATO soldiers before the war. When PAC, NATO, and CCCP led World Alliance Council and left the torn land by sending all the hope into space, no one believed in authority anymore. When faced with zombies and mutants, all humans belong to the same species. Not including mutated humans or cannibals. He checked the equipment on his body before he lifted his hands and touched the back of his neck with his fingers. It was a chip called Dictator Chip, but because it has added complex functions such as long-range communication, the chip was less effective compared to the 6th Street-produced slavery chip. Offline. Chunan tried multiple times but did not manage to establish any connection. Damn asterisk it, is this broken? The bomb behind the back of his neck was broken, but he couldn't tell if he was content or sad. Content that he was free. Sad that freedom didn't mean anything on the wasteland. There was food in Looting Town, so who cared about freedom? Returning to Looting Town was not a possibility since the people there probably recorded him as dead. A rescue was even more out of the question as only the metal debris of a previous 100,000 crystal equipment remained here. The pilot's worth was not even greater than the chip on the back of his neck. Whatever, I'll see. He forced a smile as he put the pendant into the pocket and took out his pistol. Including the one clip in the gun, he still had 5 magazines left. 2 blood needles, a roll of bandage, EP was returning to normal, a dagger, and 6B grade nutrient supply. Because he was part of the Air Force, the nutrient supply was higher quality. He opened the EP radiation monitor system and determined based on the safe radiation level that this was a rural area, but he didn't know where exactly he was. EP did not download the map in the area. He checked his equipment once again before he turned his head to look at the body and the crashed helicopter. He lowered his head and walked away. Although he did receive ground training, he never encountered a situation like this. Ordinary survivors would never target planes. Air-based EMP weapons did exist but were extremely rare. Most of them were destroyed in the war. It was also the first time he heard that a mutant could use an EMP or a similar pulse weapon. Maybe his assistant pilot has encountered his situation before, but he didn't manage to survive. Stairs cleared. Just like practice, Chunan mumbled as he directed with his pistol and moved downstairs. If it is a zombie, then use the dagger to stab the eye area. If it is a screamer, then use shock grenade for cover. If it is Roshan or Deathclaw, let's hope that never happens. The elevator was not functional. The building was an office complex before the war. The majority of the zombies were concentrated in the grand hall as the occasional straggler in the hallway was killed with his swift knife action. For small problems, it would be better to avoid using his gun. His body condition with the D-level genetic vaccine easily handled the combat requirement. The only disappointing fact was that he didn't unlock a genetic ability. When both of his feet touched the ground, Chunan let out a sigh. He gazed into the sky and determined it was around 3 in the afternoon. 5 o'clock was when the street was no longer safe. The night usually fell at 6, which meant that walking on the street would equal suicide. The night in Wanghai City belonged to the zombies. I need to find a survival camp, or find a place to stay for the night. Chunan scanned around as he walked to the end of the street. The abandoned cars on the road still maintained the same look since the moment war erupted. Since the hotspot of the war was in the middle of the city, people would escape to the rural areas. Therefore, most of the vehicles would point in the direction of the rural area. He had examined the cars before he walked into the direction away from city center. Anywhere is better than the city center. That's the one common conception every survivor had. The sky began to turn yellow as the sun had fallen to the edge of the horizon. The cast of the yellowish-green ray through the radiation dust had a vibe of ominous to it. He didn't know how long he walked before it began to turn dark. Chunan glanced at the zombies beside him as they've already begun to howl. In a while, those zombies would start to prey on living creatures. Should I find somewhere to stay for the night? Chunan thought as he began to hasten his steps. When he turned around another corner, he saw a scene that shocked him. A woman was tied to an electric pole in the middle of the street. She barely wore anything as zombies circled around. She was afraid to call help. With his pilot vision, he could even make out the look of despair on the rather lovely face. Someone obviously tied her. Fu*K, which bastard did such a disgusting prank, Chunan cursed as he cautiously scanned around before he walked towards the woman. When he approached her, the pleading eyes full of hope locked onto him. He took out the dagger and cut open the rope. Perhaps because she had just escaped the terrifying experience that chained her there, the woman hugged him as she cried. Thanks, thank you. It was a soothing voice. Okay, don't worry, you are okay now. It was the first time he encountered this situation, which made him unsure of what he should do. He only patted the woman's back clumsily to comfort her. The survivors in Wanghai City are cruel to this point. He cursed at the heinous act that people committed to her as Chunan was just about to ask where the nearest survival camp was. But at this moment, a barrel-like object pressed against his head again. Ha, buddy, you are the first Dumba asterisk guest to fall for it. Sweat began to roll down his back as his hand slightly moved, but he realized a dagger was pressed against his back. That dagger was held by a delicate hand. At the same time, a bunch of men in mohawks and tattoos walked out from the empty shops. They held some knockoff rifles and one simply carried a bat. The bald head, holding a cigarette, was the head of the group as he walked in front of Chunan. He raised his eyebrows as he patted the woman's face and said in a mocking voice. Nice job, bit*H. Just like a dog. An unhealthy red flush appeared on her face as she tried to please the man that just embarrassed her. The cruel reality sent a shiver down Chunan's spine while cold sweat rolled down his face. Despite living in the apocalypse for so many years, it was the first time he saw anything like this. Is she still a human being? 2 blood needles, 1 bandage, damn, 6B grade nutrient supply. Boss, it's a big fish. A man who took off his pistol and searched him shouted in surprise. The zombies mindlessly looked in their direction, but despite the noise, there was still 2 hours before night fell. The bald head looked at Chunan full of interest. Name? Chunan. There was nothing to hide since his EP had all the information. Where are you from? Luding Town. Pilot. Where's your plane? Greed flashed through the bald head's eye. He did not look cautious at all when he heard Chunan say that. Crashed. Hee hee. The bald head smiled and didn't say anything. He signaled his men to tie him up. If you are only here to rob me, you have already achieved that. You can have everything, let me go? Chunan said calmly. The bald head raised his eyebrows as he suddenly threw a punch in his face. He suppressed his anger as he resisted the sharp pain on his left cheek. Chunan glared at the bald head. You are a captive, so shut up, he cursed as he extinguished the cigarette on Chunan's face before he waved his hand. Take him back. He looked at the Dumba guest that took the bait as he laughed mockingly. He then kicked the half-kneeling woman in front of him, but the same unhealthy flush of red and a smile to please appeared. The woman had no name and was just a slave. Perhaps she just an independent traveler before? He didn't remember when she was captured, nor did he care how they trained her to be like this. But he remembered clearly how she became part of his asset. Last month, he managed to find a target and proved it was a big fish. His boss sent an entire raid team, but the Lu Rinjia Dumba *S ruined everything. How confident was he to order all those men to go into a confined building? He didn't even check if there were other entrances or sewerage exits. Only one person returned out of a group of a dozen. Although his boss was angry, he didn't blame him as he provided the clue. He took Lu Rinjia and the other captain's woman and distributed all their assets to other subordinates. It was a form of discipline, but also an incentive. For the bandits like Huizhong mercenaries, they needed this type of brutality to bond together. So, this dog-like thing was given to Zhou Guoping. Although this boss didn't punish him, he did remove him from the easy job of staying in the 6th Street and made him rob survivors. It was harder to capture a survivor on the wasteland than a mutant rat. Most of the people that survived till now were as sharp as a knife edge. The dumb ones were the people that never left the camps. Their return for this month was almost zero. Pilot? That's a big fish. Zhou Guoping put the rifle on his shoulder and led his men to the camp. Chapter 55, Purchasing a Mansion. Do you want to ask me out? It was an unexpected question that silenced the room. What? Jiang Chen suddenly realized what she had asked and almost fell off the sofa. He stared at Xia Xiyu and was dumbfounded by the question. He didn't understand where her logic came from. How did she come up with the, I want to ask you out? The existence of the corporation serves one purpose, which is to create profit. If you already have a method in which you could generate a profit greater than 100 million within half a year, then why would you invest the hard-earned profit into a technology industry which poses the highest risk? Xia Xiyu had paused before she explained. To be honest, although she may get frustrated by his grin and unserious attitude from time to time, she never disliked Jiang Chen. Also, she felt an emotion she never experienced before interacting with him. Relieved? Relaxed? It was hard to say. These feelings made her confused. The straightforward and unexpected question was the result of her confused emotions. She suspected before that Jiang Chen created this company as an excuse to date her. When did he start to like me? When he worked at the clothing store. I seem to have hurt him. Because of the pain I had brought him, it has forced him to transition to where he is now. Xia Xiyu was conflicted. She hated the idea of becoming a trophy. She always wanted to use her determination to prove her ability and create her own personal worth. When she was in university, a lot of rich guys chased after her and even promised her job opportunities in reputable firms, and even management positions right away. But Xia Xiyu rejected all of them. She had her own pride, a pride backed by ability. Although she was born into an ordinary family, what she possessed was anything but normal. Looks are important in this day and age, but it is not everything. Most people still work diligently. However, she felt conflicted with Jiang Chen. She guessed that Jiang Chen created this company just to keep her here. He didn't have any aspirations with the company. The blueprint he painted were just bloated statements to make her feel better. Because I owed him? No, then what is it? Xia Xiyu couldn't think it through. Women are stubborn creatures that once they made up their mind, they would selectively ignore all other points that negate the point. For example, the potential value of the mobile game, as well as investing 100 million just for her. All those counter-arguments have been fully ignored. I don't understand, 100 million RMB. If you invested in real estate, with the return now. Because I want to experience what it feels like to be at the top, Jiang Chen interrupted her. Xia Xiyu was confused by the odd answer as she stared at Jiang Chen blankly. 100 million? Hee hee, it would only be decimals compared to the future market capitalization of future technology. I did make a lot of money, but putting it in a savings account would never bring me to the top. 1 million interests a year would take me years to double my investment. As to if it is for you? Hee hee, I could bang girls for years with 100 million. He didn't avoid the derogatory words as he stood up and headed straight to the door, leaving Xia Shiyu shocked in place. So that's the reason? Then it should be okay. She gazed mindlessly at the door as she didn't know how he had the confidence to say those things, and couldn't believe that she bought into it. Not because of me. She didn't know why a hint of disappointment crept into her heart. He closed the door and forced a smile at the door behind him. Was I too harsh? But that girl, how great did she feel about herself to have made a conclusion like that? He shook his head as he took a deep breath and walked downstairs. However, he didn't even realize that, for a split moment, his heartbeat hastened. The next morning, Jiang Chen took Aisha to try some steamy buns. He watched as the girl devoured the food and he felt his heart ache at the scene. The image reminded him of Sun Jiao. How is she doing? Yao Yao. Is her body getting better? He remembered the times in the apocalypse as a smile appeared on his face. Aisha peeked at the smile as she felt a stream of warmness flowing inside her. Maybe it's time to revisit them. Jiang Chen in deep thought did not notice the girl's vision as he gazed at the steam rising from the congee. After breakfast, Aisha went to her Han lesson. Jiang Chen, instead, took a taxi to Xia Shiyu's place and picked her up to go to the bureau for the equity infusion process. Jiang Chen initially felt nervous as he was afraid it would be awkward because yesterday he only left a brief explanation before running away. Now that he thought about, he did escape the conversation. But he clearly overthought it as Xia Shiyu acted as if nothing had happened. When she saw that he didn't react to anything, she got into the taxi and sat beside him. How was your sleep last night? Jiang Chen didn't know how to start the conversation, so he asked nonchalantly. Xia Shiyu rolled her eyes and didn't respond. She just took out a piece of document and stuffed it into Jiang Chen's lap. There is a career fair next Wednesday at Wanghai University. I have managed to secure a spot there, and I hope you can come with me as the company's president. No problem, do you have time this afternoon? Jiang Chen accepted without hesitation as he then asked another question right away. Yes, what's happening? Go house hunting with me. Jiang Chen shrugged as he asked with his thick skin. Is this considered business or personal? Xia Shiyu let out a sigh. You promised me. It should be considered personal. Xia Shiyu looked at the side of Jiang Chen's face as she subconsciously bit her lips. She was about to reject him, but the words never came out. Why is this happening? She still didn't fully understand. The night before, Jiang Chen followed Robert's instruction to wire 100 million USD from his Swiss bank account to his account here. Of course, the money was already converted based on current exchange rate along with some fees into RMB. It was an interesting method with a low price. Robert promised that there won't be any legal problems. He looked at the trail of zeros in his bank account on his phone as he laughed hysterically at the screen for a while before he finally closed his phone. As to Xia Shiyu's curious gaze, he didn't bother to explain it and simply closed his eyes. Should I drive a Lamborghini? Or a Bentley? This is such a difficult decision. Xia Shiyu was indeed an organized person as she seemed to be a perfect fit to do the assistant job. No, the CEO job. Jiang Chen can do the assistant role. Xia Shiyu already prepared the necessary documents and familiarized herself with the legal process. Jiang Chen had scanned the document before he signed. Future Technologies Equity had a trail of zeros added to it. Jiang Chen noticed that when he wrote 100 million into the document, the eyes of the customer service representative across the counter were flashing stares at him. Money is the root of evil. This is too funny. Before he would have despised it, but now he only wanted to laugh. 100 million of liquid asset. This is unbelievable. With trembling hands, Xia Shiyu looked at the documents. She was still shocked by the series of events. Although she was a store manager that had exposure to the world before, she was still too young. This is only the initial plan. I plan to make this mobile game into a world-class masterpiece. With this plan, it wouldn't be difficult to recover the initial investment. Jiang Chen opened the door for Xia Shiyu like a gentleman. So you do know something? Xia Shiyu glanced at Jiang Chen with surprise in her eyes. She thought that Jiang Chen wanted to let her handle this pile of mess. For a mobile game, it would damage its long-term profitability if the company chased after short-term returns and cash generation. The better strategy would always be to not focus on short-term losses. You have to understand the difference between the emperor and the general. You are in charge of fighting the war, but I only need to tell you where to fight. Jiang Chen cockily extended his finger and pointed around, which made Xia Shiyu roll her eyes. I do feel like I am doing a servant's work. Haha, that's your illusion. But to be fair, your mood seems to be a lot brighter. You can even make a joke or two now. Jiang Chen looked at Xia Shiyu with surprise as he mocked her. Where are we going now? Mr. President. Xia Shiyu casually avoided the topic. Wanhua Real Estate, the one in the city center, Jiang Chen told the taxi driver, who clearly judged the two of them in the back. If he wanted to buy a mansion, then he obviously would go to the company's best location. It would be too low class to keep living in the hotel. Xia Shiyu didn't say anything as she quietly followed his instructions. Wanhua Real Estate, the industry leader in Wanghai City with a market capitalization of 1.327 trillion and part of the Fortune 500 companies. The reason why he chose to purchase the mansion here was that he had no understanding of the real estate market. Since he heard the company's name a couple of times in the news before, he decided to buy it there. When he got off the taxi, a magnificent building stood tall in front of him. The marble floor was covered with clean red carpets. The unique carvings decorated the sides of the stairs. The combination of modernism and classicalness perfectly meshed together to display the high-end elegance of the building. The vibe of the design made people stop and envy the greatness of the building. The occasional passer would subconsciously avoid the vivid red carpet. It was like a palace that stood heavenly above the ground. The design of the building was to emphasize the purchaser's class and force the peasants to stay away. To put it simply, they didn't want people who could not afford the place to enter the building. The moment Jiang Chen stood on the carpet, he was even scared to take a step further. But then he remembered that he was a billionaire now, so how could he not have the confidence? So he took giant strides towards the door. Wanhua Real Estate didn't know that just in the few seconds, he almost missed a deal that could earn millions because of that stupid design. This was an age that belonged to the new millionaires. Xia Shiyu, instead, presumed a blank look as she followed Jiang Chen naturally. Not because she was used to the high-class life, just that she wasn't the one purchasing the house. "Welcome, Miss and Mr." The two greeters in the front bowed to Jiang Chen and Xia Shiyu in synchrony. They wore clean and elegant quippes with their hair tied in a ponytail, along with their flawless skin and delicate face. Even the greeters were gorgeous girls, which further emphasized the luxury of this real estate company. The greeter looked strangely at Jiang Chen as this was the first time she saw someone take a taxi to purchase real estate. Although she was curious, she still must follow the rules of the company and be courteous. The company rules stated clearly that no judgment should be made based on impressions. Violators will be fired even if it was a manager that broke the rule. This was to avoid accidentally disrespecting wealthy people dressed in regular clothes. There were plenty of people that liked to act low profile. High salary equals high expectation, which is the culture of Wanhua Real Estate. She was a greeter and therefore didn't need to bother with these things. Even if Jiang Chen was here to look for trouble, that's security's concern. Jiang Chen didn't bother with what they thought as he walked into the grand hall in full, confident strides. Xia Shiyu behind him only glanced at the greeter with her head lowered before she left. Marble pillars with stone floors, the giant crystal chandelier drew the attention of every visitor like a bright diamond. The elegant design of the grand hall filled Jiang Chen with expectations for the mansion he was going to purchase. If they would design the headquarters with such radiance, then the house they sell must be comparable. The building itself was a great advertisement. But when he saw the receptionist, he stood shocked in place. Chapter 56, The Surprising Reunion. "Hello, sir, what type and what unit would you?" "It's you?" The youthful reception behind the table courteously explained to Jiang Chen, but when she saw his face, her eyes popped wide open. "This is a small world." Jiang Chen forced a smile. The blonde curls, the delicate nose, and her mouth along with eyes full of pureness, behind a round framed glasses. The student vibe made her even more attractive. Though she's certainly pretending to be younger than her actual age. Fang Yuanyuan, a name that broke his heart. When he was in university, he never had a girlfriend, or more accurately, never successfully chased after a girl. Not that he looked bad as he was confident of his looks, but the fact was he was poor. This girl called Fang Yuanyuan was a girl that he had chased after, and also the last one he ever pursued. He still remembered that they met at a gathering. The reason why he liked her was because of her energy, as well as the faint dimples when she smiled. Fang Yuanyuan didn't keep her distance with Jiang Chen because he was poor, she always warmly said hi to him, and they chatted on WeChat. For Jiang Chen, who was less popular among girls, she was like an angel to him. What made him feel even more strongly was that he felt that she also liked him back. But the reality proved that it was a rookie mistake. A girl being nice to you could also be nice to other people. The illusion of "she likes me" was often just a one-sided imagination. Being close to you was only because you could be used or she was just bored. Rejecting you because you were friend-zoned since the beginning. If she liked you, she would have asked you out already or hinted at you to ask her out. Don't be mistaken, if she blinked her big eyes full of cuteness at you, that's not the boyfriend. It's not because she is innocent, but rather, "I am 30, can you buy me a Starbucks?" Of course, the noun could be changed to Pizza Hut or Louis Vuitton. These types of innocent acting girl, people refer to them as green tea bitch. "If you don't like me, just tell me to foo*k off. Why are you acting close to me?" Of course, Jiang Chen admitted that it was dumb of him to be involved in the first place. Every basic girl always had some boys run around her. One held her bag, one paid for her, one alleviated her physical needs. That was the definition of being naive. He really didn't know something like this would happen. It was one day during Jiang Chen's second year of university that he asked Fang Yuanyuan out to a movie. The movie was Lu Yaozi that year. And then, there was no and then. He finally woke up from the illusion that year. He realized it was a one-sided emotion. After rejecting the person, to continuously expect the person to act like a best friend, to expect they would continue to revolve around you and your life, that was greed. In the end, she ripped off the faute of innocence and began to mock him for being weak and useless. Shocked, confused. Within the next 2 years, every time they passed by each other, she would always hasten her steps and walk away pretending not to know him. It was better that way as it would be awkward otherwise. He had already put this unhappy memory into the back of his head. Especially after his roommate told him that, "I didn't tell you before because I was afraid that you would be angry, but that Fang Yuanyuan girl has an ambiguous relationship with other people at the same time." There was no reason to discuss whose fault it was. But it was after that moment that he no longer believed in fidelity. Especially after he possessed the financial capability, he was out of control. But this was another story to be told. He just didn't expect that 1 year after graduation they would encounter again. In his memory, Fang Yuanyuan was an art major, but she came into the real estate business. It was not odd since he did study a supposedly good major, mechanical engineering, but still sold clothes after graduation. The feeling to meet an old friend felt odd to Jiang Chen. Why would you come here? The girl looked around nervously as she lowered her voice and said in a begging tone, "Please, don't come bother me anymore, you and I won't happen." "I think you are mistaken." Jiang Chen awkwardly looked at Fang Yuanyuan. Although she had hurt him before, he didn't have the desire to seek revenge. What happened before was all buried in dust. Yes, Fang Yuanyuan did hurt him, but through her perspective, she didn't do anything wrong since Jiang Chen couldn't give her the life she wanted. Also, it's hard to debate who actually gained more from her rejection. "How did you find out where I worked?" She gritted her teeth as she locked her eyes on Jiang Chen. "Leave, I don't want to see. I won't accept you." Jiang Chen was completely dumbfounded. "What? Do I need your permission to buy a house? You are mistaking this whole thing." But Fang Yuanyuan didn't give Jiang Chen the chance to explain as she acted defiantly. As to why she rejected so dramatically, it was because of something that happened recently. A middle-aged businessman that recently bought a second-hand house from here proposed to her. The reason behind it was she tricked the bald, middle-aged man to think that a cute girl had fallen in love with him, so he hot-headedly signed his name on the contract. But when the middle-aged man showed up with 99 roses to her workplace, the exact details will not be discussed, but in short, the guy got kicked out by security. Because of this, the manager warned her. Even if the implicit rules within this industry was not new, you still have to watch your tail. She was terrified that Jiang Chen would pull something by directly proposing to her. If he made a fool of himself here and demanded her to marry him, even if the security would kick him out, she would be the laughing stock between her colleagues, and it would even affect her bonus this month. She selectively ignored the woman that stood behind Jiang Chen, a woman that would embarrass Fang Yuanyuan not only just in looks. "You know her?" Xia Shiyu in offline mode suddenly opened her mouth with a mischievous look. "Why is it so cold here? Is the AC too low?" Jiang Chen shivered. "I guess." Jiang Chen awkwardly answered. "This is ruining the mood, let's try a different place then." With Fang Yuanyuan's arrogant act, Jiang Chen wasn't in the mood anymore. He didn't even bother explaining as he was ready to turn around. Seeing Jiang Chen leave in embarrassment, Fang Yuanyuan let out a breath as she was amazed by her cunningness. "Good thing I acted with certainty. Haha, Dumba *s. A toad that wants to date the swan. To crave for what one is not worthy of." Jiang Chen stopped, although it was faint, it didn't escape his ear. Xia Shiyu also stopped, however, she looked at like she was happy to see the conflict unfold. Jiang Chen noticed and gave her a dirty look before he gradually turned around and walked in front of the reception. What do you want?" "I am calling the security." Fang Yuanyuan saw that Jiang Chen was walking towards her with a fierce look as she began to feel nervous. She started to stutter. "Nothing." "What? A receptionist can reject the customer's rights to buy a house? Even if you don't want me to buy, I will buy it here, and I will buy it from someone else right in front of you." Jiang Chen raised his eyebrows as he glanced at the security guards walking over. "Glistening. This guy killed people before." The security guard suddenly felt fear overcome him as cold sweat rolled down his forehead. Although Jiang Chen didn't intentionally expose anything, the bloodiness stained from the chaotic apocalypse crept into the security guard's mind through his grim gaze. His instinct from being in the gang told him that he would not be able to handle the young man in front of him. He wasn't planning to start a fight, but momentum-wise he already lost out. The air in the room started to tense up. At this moment, an apologetic voice suddenly alleviated all the tension in the air. Of course she doesn't have the right, honorable sir. I apologize for this poor demeanor of our company's reception. Chapter 57, Who's the Swan? Of course she doesn't have the right, honorable sir. I apologize for the poor demeanor of our company's receptionist. Huang Li's songbird voice floated from the back of the hall. A gorgeous woman in black walked out in elegant steps as she lowered her body slightly to express her apology. Flawless skin, delicate face, and on top of the seductive eyes were a pair of finely drawn eyebrows. Below the perfect nose of hers was a small mouth. The vivid red lipstick did not make her look slightly ordinary. Instead, it radiated her elegance. Her black uniform perfectly outlined the curves of her body as the pencil skirt pressed against the black stockings, mysterious and seductive. The opening in front of her shirt exposed the white and deep valley in front of her. She was created by God in perfection. Just in beauty, she was even slightly more attractive than Xia Xiyu. Of course, it was somewhat unfair since Xia Xiyu would always be expressionless and never really put on makeup. Her wardrobe comprised of professional clothing and her primary purpose was to go to the bureau with Jiang Chen, and house hunting only happened because of an agreement. An attractive woman mediating the situation was much more efficient. The sincere apology already diminished most of Jiang Chen's anger away. It was not a big deal to start with since their manager already apologized. He didn't want to persist further. It's okay. This girl is attractive. Jiang Chen tried to hide his gulping. For some reason, he felt someone staring at him questionably. Perhaps confident with her own beauty, or perhaps she had seen too many guys embarrass themselves in front of her. Xiao Menjing didn't mind as she steered the conversation. I am the sales manager here. My name is Xiao Menjing, you can call me Ying. Mr. What type of unit would you like to purchase? I have extensive experience in selecting the right units for my customer. As she spoke, she was also examining Jiang Chen. Although Jiang Chen didn't wear anything high-end, nor did he exhibit class in his actions, in the world filled with newly emerging millionaires, it was nearly impossible to tell who had money. Since he walked into this place, it proved that he was definitely financially capable. When she noticed Xia Xiyu, Xiao Menjing was even more certain of her guess. To be able to walk in here with a girl as attractive as her, looks would not do justice. Xiao Menjing also noticed that the expressionless beauty was not this guy's wife, but perhaps played a mistress or assistant role. The hint of dislike made her even more confident. Her light tone made the two feel a lot closer. Jiang Chen's intention to act arrogantly faded away. Truthfully speaking, although he liked to act arrogantly, he was nice the majority of the time. I want to buy a comfortable mansion, do you have any recommendations? Jiang Chen regathered his thought from staring at the stunning beauty as he said with a smile. Mansion? Xiao Menjing was slightly shocked. She originally thought Jiang Chen only wanted to buy an apartment at a high-end location, it was the deal that she had done the most. But Jiang Chen straight up wanted purchase a mansion. The cheapest mansion in Wanghai City was at least 10 million. With the 0.8% commission her company promised, this one deal would be more than several deals combined. Xiao Menjing's eyes immediately lit up as the way she looked at Jiang Chen held more hidden seduction. I apologize. Xiao Menjing gently lowered her body as she apologized for her shocked look, at the same time intentionally exposing her cleavage slightly more. She heard the gulping sound as a trace of a satisfied smile appeared on her face. All men were perverts. If they were not, it's the girl not being attractive enough. She was extremely confident with herself. Sir, if you want to purchase a mansion, please follow me to the VIP room. Any deal over 5 million will be done in the VIP room to provide the best quality service. I hope you don't mind. I don't mind, lead the way. Jiang Chen smiled. Sir, please come over here. Xiao Menjing smiled delicately as she leaned forward with a pleasing gesture. Xia Xiyu frowned slightly. She didn't know why, but she disliked this woman. Not because she was jealous of the way she looked, it was the fact that she felt a sense of danger around her. Where did the feeling come from? She couldn't think it through, but she just faintly had this feeling. Although annoyed, she could only let out a sigh and follow Jiang Chen since he was the one buying. When she noticed that Jiang Chen's eyes locked onto Xiao Menjing's round butt, she felt a strange annoyance and frustration. But then she thought, he is not my boyfriend, why am I angry? This doesn't make sense. She was in the middle of a conflicting set of logics as she began to feel a frustration she was not accustomed to. Xia Xiyu's facial expression change, of course, didn't escape Xiao Menjing's eyes. She had spent a few years within a melting pot known as society as she advanced from a normal salesperson to where she was now. Her attention to body language was superb. Jealous but didn't react meant that the two were still in the dubious phase of the relationship. Xiao Menjing saw through the exact state of their relationship. There were so many opportunities to be taken then, as a faint smile crept onto Xiao Menjing's face. A lot of friends are also real estate salespeople, but they eventually became the owner of the house they sold. It not only depended on the look but also their cunningness. She was making plans in her mind. If this Mr. Jiang would purchase a mansion over 50 million, then it would be worth it for her to make a move. Since sales and real estate was a career with a time limit, no one would want to buy a house from an old woman. Even if she took care of herself, the age ceiling was still around 30 years old. With her current salary including commission, she could make almost 1 million. But of course, this type of salary was unsustainable. With the current housing market condition, despite prices still increasing, the volume decreased significantly compared to 2008. The company fired a group of people just last month. Although it would never affect her as the star salesperson, the current industry trend forced her to consider her options. Marrying rich was not a terrible choice. When she thought about all this, Xiao Menjing's invasive vision scanned across the expressionless Xia Shiyu. She was ready to steal her man. Jiang Chen, who walked beside her, didn't notice the change in this beauty's expression. He gave Fang Yuan, who was frozen in place, a long meaningful look before going into the VIP room. Who's the swan? Who's the toad? Dumba *s. He cursed satisfyingly in his mind as he felt joy flow through his body. His pride and sense of revenge were both fulfilled. 3 people with their own thoughts left the grand hall and left only Fang Yuan standing blankly at the front desk. Regret? Unwillingness? Confusion? Jealousy? Or all of them? A $10 million deal just scathed by her. Jiang Chen? Him? How could he buy a mansion? He couldn't even afford Pizza Hut? This is impossible. A million thoughts flashed through her mind which made her feel surreal. But, it was too late to regret. Fang Yuan could never fight off the meat from her manager's mouth. Especially since she had already offended Jiang Chen. The toad that wanted to date the swan? Who's the toad? Who's the swan now? There was no way he could like her now. Fang Yuan only felt regret submerge her completely because of her irrational reaction. She could have easily used their previous relationship to eat the meat, but she gave it away with her own quick judgment. At the same time, a slim hope was still in her mind. She knew Jiang Chen's family background and knew where he worked after the graduation. A clothing store salesperson would never afford a mansion. He must be lying. It was an elaborate scheme to embarrass me. Her colleagues did not have the slightest attempt to hide their mockery. They knew well that they would not beat Xiao Menjing. But this girl gave away the meat in her mouth. That was so dumb. Fang Yuan couldn't bother with her colleague's expression as she fell into deep despair and regret, unable to escape from what happened. She regretted that 3 years ago she did not say yes to Jiang Chen. At the same time, she cursed and thought everything was set up to mock her. When a person sank into irrationality, their intelligence would be drawn into oblivion. There is not a lot of second chances in the world, or else everyone would be a millionaire. Chapter 58, The Intimacy in the Car. Is Mr. Jiang buying the mansion for investment purposes or for personal use? For myself. Is there a difference? Perhaps intentional. After Xiao Menjing seated Jiang Chen, she directly sat beside him. The leather sofa here was for 2 people, so Xia Shiyu had to sit on the single sofa. Because they were too close, Jiang Chen could smell the gardenia fragrance. Due to the angle they were seated in, if he wanted to look at the documents in Xiao Menjing's hands, his eyes inevitably caught the red bra inside her V-neck. I do apologize, this is by no means intentional. The arousing scene made Jiang Chen straighten his back and adjust the way he sat to avoid being too obvious. The small movements did not escape Xiao Menjing's sharp eyes as her tongue rolled across her bright red lips. Xiao Menjing leaned her body forward even further to make it look like she was providing a better angle for the customer to read the documents at, but the real intention was to show the scenery of her cleavage more. If the purpose is to invest, then the appreciation value potential is what you should consider. But if it is for personal living, then the environment and amenities are the top considerations. Based on your needs, sir, I recommend this mansion in the Linjiang area. The mansion is within the newly developed upper-class community, the amenities and the surrounding area are all world-class. The mansion is 3 stories tall with a basement. It is equipped with a double garage as well as a private front yard. The position of the mansion is facing the river, which directly oversees the beauty of the river. If sir you are into high-class living, then you must take serious consideration of this mansion. Xia Shiyu sat silently on the side with her eyes locked onto the slim distance between Jiang Chen and Xiao Menjing's arm. She felt an unexplainable frustration. 12 million? Jiang Chen frowned. Xiao Menjing carefully examined Jiang Chen's facial expression. She sensed that Jiang Chen was not too happy with the price as she added, "Sir, Wanhua Real Estate's top priority is our homebuyers' comfort. Although the price is a bit high, it's not the problem with the price." "Well, it is. Let's not waste any time. Show me the most expensive mansion," Jiang Chen said right away. Xiao Menjing first felt disappointed, but when Jiang Chen said that, she paused to think through what she had just heard before her face turned ecstatic. "Okay, sir, please look at this mansion." Xiao Menjing's tone became even sweeter as her delicate fingers quickly flipped through the documents. She found a picture of the mansion. Perhaps it was an illusion, but Jiang Chen felt this woman was getting even closer to him. "This mansion is our company's masterfully crafted sample building to demonstrate our excellence in design. Located in Wanghai City Mingxin area, among the high-class mansion complex. It is located on the upstream of the river and has a direct view of it. The mansion's design is based on a combination of classical and modern theory and was skillfully designed by the world-class architect Kei Garin. The compact design not only saves addition space, but it also eases traveling between different units of the mansion. The mansion is 4 stories high with a basement attached. The garage is a quadruple garage. It is also built with a 10m by 10m private pool with a mobile roof design. In the summer, it can be used for a pool party, and in the winter the roof can be closed to replicate a hot spring environment. The private garden in the front of mansion could be used for a barbecue party, which is the current trend of the upper-class society. The helicopter pad on the roof could be used for takeoffs and landings of small to mid-sized helicopters. The open balcony on the other side has a full view of the beautiful scenery of the river. Additionally, to ensure the safety and security of our homebuyer, our company has provided that the community's security measure is the highest within Wanghai City. This mansion's security measure, in particular, is the top priority for our security team. The value of this mansion is superb. The area is 2,100 square meters with a total cost of 240 million renminbi. Listening to Xiao Menjing's pleasant voice, Jiang Chen carefully examined the details of the mansion. Very pleased with every aspect of this mansion. The security was top-notch, the geographical location was also not too far from the mansion. The more important thing was that this building was great to show off. "Xia Shiyu, what do you think about this one?" Jiang Chen handed the documents to Xia Shiyu. Not bad." Jiang Chen examined Xia Shiyu's facial expression confusedly, he sensed that her mind was somewhere else. "Do you not feel okay?" Jiang Chen was concerned. A little. I want to go back now," Xia Shiyu answered absent-mindedly as she suddenly stood up and walked to the door. "Miss Xia, if you are not feeling okay, I can lend my car to my colleague and send you home or to the nearest hospital. Health is an important issue, and please be careful." Seeing the inconvenient personal leave, Xiao Menjing was glad, but she didn't show it on her face. Instead, she looked genuinely concerned. "Thank you then." Xia Shiyu didn't say no as she did feel a bit sick. Perhaps it was from this morning? But she didn't seem too worried. The greeter standing on the side took Xiao Menjing's car key and smiled at Xia Shiyu before both of them left the VIP room. "Mr. Jiang, if you are sure about your choice, I can accompany you to take a tour of the mansion," Xiao Menjing said as happily pressed her body against Jiang Chen's arm. Although usually a guarantee fee must be paid to do so, that was for the regular customer. For a VIP customer like him, it was not necessary. Jiang Chen hesitated before he finally nodded. Although he wanted Xia Shiyu to accompany him to give him some advice, since she felt sick, that wouldn't work. She did look through the pictures and said it was okay. "After taking care of this, I'll go visit her place. Although it is just a cold, no one is there to take care of her." "Okay, let's go then." A delightful smile appeared on Xiao Menjing as she led Jiang Chen to the company's parking lot. Luxury vehicles were parked here for valuable customers. She gestured Jiang Chen to sit in the back of the car before Xiao Menjing also, in triumphant steps, walked to the other side and elegantly sat inside. The driver in the front started the car and smoothly headed to the road. A Mercedes-Benz costumed version. The back of the seat was very spacious with the front and back of the car divided with a blackboard. The window was also tinted which turned the back seat into a secretive area. The atmosphere was rather erotic. Especially when a beauty that sat beside you with her legs crossed looked at you with a dubious smile. "Mr. Jiang, there's still 30 minutes before we arrive. Let's discuss something interesting." Jiang Chen noticed the seductive little tongue roll between her parted bright red lips. The pair of charming eyes has been particularly seductive under this intimate atmosphere. "Oh? For example?" Jiang Chen also smiled. He heard the implicit rules within the real estate sales industry. To get a higher commission they would provide special service to big customers, but he didn't expect to encounter it. "For example, if you choose to pay the full amount, I'll bring a little surprise for you." The curvature of Xiao Menjing's mouth was teasing Jiang Chen. "Oh? Then this is something to look forward to. If you can make me satisfied, then I'll consider paying a guarantee fee. If I am happy with the mansion, then, of course, it is okay to pay the full amount. Jiang Chen's lips also began to curve upwards as desire began to show through his eyes. He never said he was a courteous gentleman. Since the hint was so obvious, why would he say no? Xiao Menjing's eyes lit up as she processed Jiang Chen's words. Guarantee fee would equate to strong intention in purchasing the mansion. It would be up to her efforts to convince the customer to make the final decision. Jiang Chen's a man of his words, right? Xiao Menjing teased as her beautiful eyes cast downwards and she left her seat. Jiang Chen finally knew why the design was so spacious. Xiao Menjing knelt in front of him as she seductively looked at him. She opened a compartment from under his seat and took out something small. To welcome your sir, I'll help you, sir, to clean up a little? He didn't expect her to be this straightforward. Xiao Menjing used her fingers to open Jiang Chen's belt and gently loosen it before she unzipped a particular area. How are you going to clean it up for me? Jiang Chen reacted to Xiao Menjing's hand's movement as he raised his eyebrow. Like this. Xiao Menjing laughed, teasing him. She took out a wet wipe and surrounded Jiang Chen's private area with both of her hands. It was a cold and soft sensation. The coldness came from the wet wipe, the softness came from the delicate hands of the beauty. Just like this? Jiang Chen asked dubiously. She smiled as she put her face closer. She looked up charmingly and tastefully licked her red lips with her playful tongue. And like this. The hot breath, the warm and wet sensation, Jiang Chen felt that he was surrounded by moistness and warmness. Xiao Menjing was satisfied with Jiang Chen's expression. With her eyes narrowed, she began to savor the delicious treat in her mouth. Lick, suck, and bite, with all her ability. Not only her skillfulness in eating ice cream, but Xiao Menjing's face of enjoyment also made Jiang Chen's scalp tingle. Even if he knew it was acting, who could last through a beauty's intoxicated expression? The scenery outside the window flew past as the presence of pedestrians and cars made both of them even feel more excited. Especially when it was not possible to see from the outside, but everything was so clear from the inside. Fast and Furious? At the peak of climax, Jiang Chen held onto Xiao Menjing's head as he forcefully spilled his ice cream into her mouth, followed by her painful gulping sounds. Chapter 59, Luxury. The luxury car stopped in front of the community as the driver rolled the window down to scan the identification card before the bar slowly lifted up. Peering through the window, Jiang Chen noticed that all of the security staff were muscular and fit, equipped with electric rods. Although he didn't know the specifics of their ability, from the way they stood, he guessed that they must be retired soldiers. His suspicions were correct. The 50 security guards within the community were all elite soldiers who retired without any infractions. The property management's high reputation was certainly justified. Since the community's opening 6 years ago, many thieves set their eyes upon the property, but none were successful. The security team's scouting skills had been honed in the army. If thieves managed to bypass them on their watch, then they might as well reconsider their career as a special agent. The luxury car drove smoothly into the wide driveway in the deepest part of the community, which was shaped like a flipped bowl on top of a large, artificially created hill. Jiang Chen's mansion was at the highest point of the bowl, overlooking the beautiful river scenery. The people living here are either rich or respective. This way, not only will you get to enjoy the complex, but you'll also meet a lot of interesting neighbors. Xiao Menjing was hinting that staying here would be beneficial for his career. However, Jiang Chen didn't seem to receive her intentions as he flashed a smile at her carelessly. Career was one thing, but the living standard was more important. Without it, what was the point of having a high net worth? Since he purchased the mansion for his own enjoyment, the first priority was comfort. As for the rich and respectable neighbors? He had a feeling that they would come knocking soon enough. The car came to a smooth stop in front of the mansion door as Xiao Menjing quickly got out and opened the door for Jiang Chen. She scanned her card on the door, making the metal gate automatically slide open. Once registration is complete, the mansion's security system will update. You can even use the app our company developed to open the door. Of course, I recommend the special electronic key. Xiao Menjing smartly batted her eyelashes at him as she led the way into the mansion. Behind the European-themed wall was another world. The clean-cut grass field, straight stone brick pathway, and the building that was a fusion between classical European and modern simplicity came together flawlessly without any contradiction to the two unique themes. The open French windows adorned the first floor of the mansion, completed by white, square blocks around the rest of the building. Elegant but open, the 4-story building stood out among the other 3-story mansions. Jiang Chen was most satisfied with the oval-shaped swimming pool. Just as the document stated, with a press of a button, the dome retracted to the side, revealing an open swimming pool. The temperature of the pool could also be accurately increased to a specific range thanks to the heating equipment underneath the pool. Although these innovative designs were rather impractical, it fueled someone like Jiang Chen who thrived on the coolness. Xiao Menjing explained the high-end features within the mansion and led him inside. The interior design pleased him even further. Sample rooms were furnished for the sake of advertisement, and the company offered the option of refurbishing if the homebuyer was unhappy with the design. But Jiang Chen was plenty satisfied with the decorations. The monochromatic living room was comforting, and the artistic furniture further enhanced the lively feel. The building itself had been built to perfection by a world-renowned architect. Even without knowing why it felt so right, Jiang Chen felt at peace here. The dining room and kitchen were masterfully designed as well. Xiao Menjing led him up the stairs to the second floor, which had been designed purely for comfort. The floor was mostly made up of bedrooms, but what shocked Jiang Chen was that every room was designed slightly differently. The intent was to allow the homebuyer to freely select a room based on their mood. One of the rooms was monochromatic with an emphasis on simplicity, while another was decorated with warm tones to create an intimate atmosphere. The third and fourth floor flowed smoothly with the rest of the building's design. Each floor had washrooms and 2 extra bedrooms. There were also some empty rooms that could be converted into whatever the homebuyer wished, such as an office or a gym. He stood on the top floor balcony and gazed out at the beautiful scenery in the light river breeze. Although it was still the middle of summer, the wind was slightly cool, which could perhaps be attributed to the vegetation around the area. It was vastly different from the heat in the center of Wanghai City. Not bad. This is a great place to live. Jiang Chen nodded at Xiao Menjing with a satisfied expression. The green vegetation, elegant environment, luxury, and comfortable design were more than worth the price. It was certainly more modern than the mansion in the apocalypse world that had been designed with a retro feel. It was the perfect environment for enjoying life. And all for only 200 million RMB. Maybe because money came too easily for him, it was an obvious choice for Jiang Chen. Although our company cannot provide a discount on these types of mansions, based on the agreement we signed with Maybach, we'll provide a brand new Maybach S600 for any home with a price tag of 100 million or above. This is a limited edition vehicle, Xiao Menjing explained. Jiang Chen had heard about the Maybach S600 before. The price overseas was around $500,000 USD, which was around 3 million RMB. Of course, people who owned 100 million mansions would not lack this small amount of money, but it was a good gesture, and a gift seemed more natural rather than giving a discount as part of a sales strategy. Chapter 60, House Hunting. Jiang Chen wrote the word Jiang on the contract, then raised his eyebrows mischievously as he dropped the pen. He smirked at Xiao Menjing's eager look. If I haven't tried before, how will I know if it is actually good? Xiao Menjing smiled charmingly, naturally understanding his meaning. Which room does Mr. Jiang want to sample? Whichever one Miss Sales Manager recommends. Of course, words won't allow the gentleman to experience the design philosophy of the mansion. Please allow me to help you understand. Xiao Menjing smiled teasingly at him as she turned around and walked towards the stairs with elegant strides. The smooth curvature of her butt and body heated Jiang Chen's blood. Although it was a new mansion, everything was already included, such as the bed sheets. The bedroom door was slammed shut. Xiao Menjing was prepared and did not resist Jiang Chen's invasive moves. Her leg curled around Jiang Chen's waist as both of her arms came up to surround his neck before she passionately kissed him. Jiang Chen, of course, was delighted to accept Xiao Menjing's steamy invitation. He opened his mouth to let the small tongue twist and attack his own. Gripping the firm, attractive leg, he easily lifted Xiao Menjing with his 25 muscle strength. He pressed her up against the window, inducing a surprised yelp from her. People are going to see. Xiao Menjing said coquettishly as she gazed at him with pleading eyes. Despite her words, it was already wet where it mattered, and she didn't try to stop Jiang Chen. Instead, she lifted her gorgeous butt to fit Jiang Chen's positioning. Says no, but the body is truthful. Jiang Chen smirked as he pushed his ice cream inside. With a mansion like this, it was impossible to see inside, since privacy was an important aspect of the design. The green vegetation surrounding the mansions made peeking impossible. Xiao Menjing bit her soft, red lips as she willingly accepted Jiang Chen's furious acts. She twisted her body to match Jiang Chen's rhythm with eyes that gazed at Jiang Chen with tenderness and passion leaking out. Since it was a transaction, Jiang Chen didn't need to concern himself with the girl's perspective. He freely went at his own pace to seek enjoyment. The monstrous thrusting motions did bring joy to Xiao Menjing, but after an hour, the pace became painful. Is it still not over? Xiao Menjing pleaded with Jiang Chen with her eyes, but he did not slow down in the slightest. Can you not take it anymore? Jiang Chen adjusted his position to whisper into her ear. Xiao Menjing nodded, trying to gain his sympathy. Do you want to get someone else then? An evil smirk appeared on his face, and he belatedly realized that he was starting to act like Sun Jiao. Xiao Menjing immediately shook her head and threw away her pitiful act. Her delicate waist began to respond again to the thrusting motion. A 200 million deal. This meant the commission alone was at least 1 million, which was her salary for the entire year. It was also difficult to sell these types of furnished mansions. If she succeeded, it would prove her competence. The majority of real estate sales struggled to break the 10 million mark, but this single deal was worth 200 million. It would advance her career, and if she could enter management, she wouldn't have to worry about her youth. I don't care anymore. She dreadfully closed her eyes as she tried to respond to Jiang Chen's every action. Money was not easy to make. Even a night with a celebrity was not worth millions. Either way, this deal was worth it to her. Her legs began to feel fragile and she felt as though she would be torn apart, but if she failed to satisfy Jiang Chen, all of her effort would go down the drain. If she wasn't willing to bear the pain, there were plenty of others who would take it for her. Despite her colleagues' haughty attitudes, they were no doubt eyeing her sales manager position. Results ruled at Wanhua Real Estate. Whoever had the better sales record was the better fit for the sales manager position. The newcomer Fang Yuanyuan was no different in that she was willing to do anything. Xiao Menjing heard from an acquaintance that this girl participated in a party with the young master of a gang to sell a house and played with 5 people. Who knew what this girl was thinking or what sort of emotions she had coming into work? But she managed to sell the house worth 10 million, successfully completing the sales requirement for the first year to continue working at headquarters. Compared to her, at least this is a lot easier. Xiao Menjing comforted herself, slightly frowned, and let Jiang Chen. By the time they returned to the car, it was already dusk. The driver stood smoking beside the car, but when he saw the VIP and his boss come out, he immediately extinguished the cigarette but before opening the door for him with a courteous smile and bow. Being in the industry for so long, he knew what happened in that mansion between the sales manager and Jiang Chen, but it was not up to an ordinary person like him to judge. It was better to keep his mouth shut. The real estate industry was not clean to begin with, especially for a major player like Wanhua Real Estate. Jiang Chen got into the car first before Xiao Menjing elegantly sat beside him. The driver started the engine and returned on the same route. In the car, Xiao Menjing called her manager, and when they arrived, he waited in front of the door with the sales staff to welcome them. Although Xiao Menjing was similarly a manager in name, her position of sales manager had been specifically made to motivate the staff. In terms of pay, the salary was the same as any other managers, but in terms of responsibilities, they were no different from those of the regular sales staff. As for the general manager, that was another role entirely. He managed everything at headquarters from strategy to operations. Any deal over 30 million had to be completed by him, but of course, he didn't receive commission as his bonus was based on the total sales around this area. Jiang Chen took the gold-gilded business card from the reverent general manager and enjoyed the warm welcome from the sales staff that were lined up. His vanity was fulfilled as he happily entered the office together with the general manager.